The morning after my 18th birthday, my stepdad David slid a piece of paper across the table. "Your rent is due," he said with a smug smile. $800 a month. What he didn't know, I owned the house, and his freeloading days were about to end. If you've ever dealt with a toxic step-parent who thought they could push you around, this story is going to feel like pure justice. Stick around, because what started as a rent demand turned into the most satisfying eviction you'll ever hear. And if you're ready to see entitled people get exactly what they deserve, smash that like button and subscribe to Revenge with Mary for more real revenge stories. My name is Anya. I'm 18 years old, and up until a week ago, I thought my stepdad David owned the house we lived in. Turns out, I was completely wrong. Dead wrong. Let me start from the beginning. My dad died when I was 8 years old. Cancer took him from us fast. One year he was healthy and happy, coaching my softball team and making pancakes on Saturday mornings. The next year, he was gone. It destroyed me. I was just a little kid trying to understand why my hero wasn't coming home anymore. But my mom, Elena, was incredibly strong. She held us together when everything felt like it was falling apart. She worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table and a roof over our heads. She made sure I never felt like we were struggling, even though I know now that we absolutely were. For 6 years, it was just the 2 of us. We had this small 2-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing fancy or expensive, but it was ours. Or at least, I thought it belonged to Mom. We were a team. She worked hard at her jobs, and I did my part by keeping the house clean and learning to cook simple meals. By the time I was 10, I could make spaghetti and do the dishes without being asked. We didn't need anyone else. We had each other. Then David showed up in our lives. I was 14 when Mom started dating him. At first, he seemed nice enough. He was polite to me, brought flowers for Mom, and said all the right things. He acted like a gentleman. Within a year, they were married, and David moved into our house. That's when everything changed. That's when his true personality came out. David wasn't just bossy or controlling. He was a full-blown narcissist. He made it very clear that he was the man of the house now, and everyone needed to follow his rules. My mom, who had been this fierce, independent woman who handled everything on her own, slowly started to change. She became quieter, more submissive. She stopped speaking up for herself. It was painful to watch. And David, he treated me like I was nothing but a burden, like I was some annoying expense he was graciously tolerating out of the goodness of his heart. He complained constantly about how much money it cost to feed and clothe me, even though Mom was still working those same 2 jobs and paying for absolutely everything. David barely worked. He did odd jobs here and there, but his income was basically just bare money. Meanwhile, he acted like he was supporting the entire household. He also insisted that I call him Dad. I flat out refused. I called him David, which made him furious every single time. It didn't feed his ego, and that drove him crazy. We fought all the time. He'd call me ungrateful and disrespectful. I'd call him a freeloader and a fraud. Mom would always jump in the middle, begging me to apologize because he's your stepfather and you need to show respect. I never apologized, not once. And it created this painful distance between me and Mom that hurt more than anything David could say to me. By the time I graduated high school a few months ago, I'd learned to just avoid David as much as possible. I enrolled in the local community college to save money on housing. I got a part-time job at a grocery store stocking shelves. My plan was simple: live at home for free, save every penny I earned, finish college, and get out of there as fast as I could. Then I turned 18, and everything exploded. The very next morning after my birthday, David cornered me in the kitchen. He had this smug, satisfied look on his face as he slid a piece of paper across the table toward me. What's this? I asked, picking it up. Your bill, he said with a nasty smile. You're an adult now. Time to start paying your fair share around here. I looked down at the paper. My hands started shaking. $800 a month for rent, $200 for food, $150 for utilities. It added up to over $1,000 a month. I was working part-time, making minimum wage, and taking a full course load at college. There was absolutely no way I could afford that kind of money. You're joking, right? I said, looking up at him. Do I look like I'm joking? David leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms over his chest. You're 18 now. You're an adult. Adults pay their own way in life. That's how the real world works. I'm a full-time college student working part-time for minimum wage. Where exactly am I supposed to get this kind of money? He shrugged like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Not my problem, kid. Figure it out, or find somewhere else to live. Honestly, I'm being pretty generous here. I'm giving you a big discount since you're not working full-time yet. If you were, I'd be charging you way more. I stared at him, feeling rage build up in my chest. This man had been living in our house for 4 years, eating our food, barely contributing anything financially, and now he had the nerve to charge me rent, to kick me out if I didn't pay? Does Mom know about this? I asked. Your mother agrees with me completely, he said smoothly, confidently. It's time you learned some responsibility. Time to grow up. That hurt worse than anything. The idea that Mom would go along with this, that she'd let him do this to me. But I didn't say anything else. I just took the paper, walked to my room, and closed the door. I sat on my bed trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do now. I felt trapped, helpless, angry. So I did what any desperate 18-year-old would do. I posted on social media asking if anyone knew of cheap rooms for rent in the area. Maybe I could find some tiny place I could barely afford. That post changed everything. My Uncle Robert, my dad's younger brother, saw the post within an hour. We hadn't been close since Dad died. Mom had kind of drifted away from Dad's side of the family over the years. It was probably too painful for her to stay connected to them. But Robert reached out to me immediately with a private message. Anya, why are you looking for a place to rent? Aren't you living in your house? I stared at the message, completely confused. What do you mean, my house? You're 18 now, right? Congratulations on finally getting the house. Your dad would be so proud of you. My heart started pounding hard in my chest. My hands were shaking as I typed back. Uncle Robert, what are you talking about? There was a long pause. Then his response came through. Your dad left that house to you when he died. Didn't your mom tell you about it? Everything stopped. The whole world felt like it was spinning around me. No, I typed back quickly. She never told me anything about that. Oh, crap. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. You should definitely check with your mom about this. Sorry if I confused you, kiddo. And then he stopped responding to my messages completely. He just went silent. He dropped this massive bombshell on me and then disappeared. I sat there staring at my phone, my mind racing in 1,000 different directions. My house. Dad left me the house. But that didn't make any sense at all. Why wouldn't Mom tell me something that important? Why would she let David push me around and demand rent in my own house? Unless she was hiding it from me on purpose. Unless she didn't want me to know. I didn't immediately run to Mom and confront her. I knew I needed to be smart about this. I needed to have actual facts before I said anything. So I started doing research online. That's when I learned that property records are public information. Anyone can look them up. I went to the county assessor's website and typed in our address. Then I held my breath and clicked search. There it was, right on my computer screen. Clear as day. Official public record. Owner, Anya Petrov, minor. Custodian, Elena Petrov. The house was mine. It had been mine since Dad died 10 years ago. Mom was just listed as the custodian, which meant she was responsible for managing it until I turned 18, which meant that 3 months ago, when I officially turned 18, the house became fully and completely mine. No custodian needed anymore. David had been demanding rent for a house he didn't own, a house he had zero legal claim to, a house that I owned, a house he'd been freeloading in for 4 straight years without paying a single cent. I sat back in my chair and actually started laughing out loud. I couldn't help it. The whole situation was so absurd and perfect. David thought he had all the power, but he actually had none. Zero. Nothing. Oh, this was going to be so much fun. But I couldn't just march in there and blow everything up without a plan. I needed to be strategic and smart about this. So I made a careful plan. First, I found the name of Dad's lawyer in the property documents. His name was Mr. Thompson. I called his office and explained the whole situation to him. He confirmed everything I'd found and walked me through the exact process of officially transferring the title into my name now that I was 18. He also explained something very important. As the legal owner of the property, I had every right to evict anyone I wanted from my house, including David. Second, I needed to talk to Mom, but I had to be careful and strategic about it. I caught her during her lunch break at work, away from David and his influence. Mom, did David tell you he's charging me rent? I asked her directly. She looked genuinely shocked and confused. What? No, honey, you don't have to pay any rent. This is your home. He gave me a bill this morning, over $1,000 a month. She looked upset and angry. I had no idea about this. I'll talk to him tonight. Anya, you're not paying anything. Don't worry about it. I paused for a moment, then asked the big question. Mom, whose house is this? Legally, I mean, who actually owns it? Her face went completely pale. She fumbled for words and wouldn't look me in the eyes. It was your father's house, she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Is it yours now? Or is it still in Dad's name? Anya, I really have to get back to work right now. We'll talk about this later tonight, okay? Don't worry about the rent thing. I promise. She walked away before I could ask any more questions. But her reaction told me absolutely everything I needed to know. She knew. She'd known the whole time that the house was mine, and she deliberately kept it secret from me. That night, I came home ready for whatever was about to happen. David was waiting for me in the living room, his eyes red and angry, clearly furious about something. You ran crying to your mommy. He sneered at me. I told her what you're trying to do, I said, keeping my voice calm and steady. I'm the man of this house. I make the decisions here. You're paying that rent whether you like it or not. I smiled at him. Is this your house, David? It's my wife's house, which makes it my house too. So you don't actually own it yourself. I don't need to own it on paper. I'm the man here. I'm in charge of everything. Well, here's an interesting thing I discovered, David. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screenshot I'd taken of the property records. The house isn't in Mom's name. It's in mine. My dad left it to me when he died, which means you've been living in my house for free for 4 entire years. The color completely drained from his face. He looked like he'd been slapped. That's complete bullshit, he said, but his voice was shaking and uncertain. Public records don't lie. You can check them yourself if you want. He grabbed my phone and stared at the screen. His jaw clenched tight. His hands were trembling. Your mother is listed as the custodian. Was the custodian. Past tense. I turned 18 3 months ago. The house is fully mine now. 100%. David looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. Mom came rushing out from the bathroom, having heard our raised voices. "What's going on out here?" she asked nervously. I turned to face her. "You want to tell him the truth, or should I?" She looked down at the floor, tears starting to form in her eyes. "It's true," she whispered. "The house belongs to Anya." David absolutely exploded. "You knew? You knew this whole damn time, and you didn't bother to tell me?" "I was going to tell you, eventually." "When exactly? When were you planning to mention that I've been living in some teenager's house this whole time?" "She's my daughter." "She's a disrespectful little brat who needs to be put in her place." That's when I stepped forward and interrupted him. "Actually, David, since this is my house, I think it's time we talked about your rent." He spun around to face me. "Excuse me? You've been living here for 4 years, freeloading off me and my mom. I think it's time you started paying your fair share. $800 a month sounds about right, doesn't it? That's exactly what you wanted to charge me." His face turned bright purple with rage. "You little. And since I became the legal owner 3 months ago when I turned 18, you actually owe me back rent for those 3 months. That's $2,400 total. I'll give you until the end of this week to pay up." David actually lunged toward me like he was going to grab me or hit me. Mom screamed, but I stood my ground and didn't move. "If you touch me, I'm calling the police immediately. That's assault. And maybe I'll add trespassing charges too, since you're not on the lease or any legal documents for this property." He stopped just a few feet away from me, fists clenched at his sides, his whole body shaking with anger and humiliation. "You can't do this to me," he hissed through clenched teeth. "I absolutely can. I already talked to a lawyer named Mr. Thompson. This is my property. You're not on the title. You're not on any paperwork, anywhere. Legally, you're just a guest in my house. And I'm completely done hosting you." I pulled out a printed document from my backpack, a formal 30-day eviction notice that Mr. Thompson had helped me prepare that afternoon. "You have 30 days to get out. If you're not gone by then, I'll have the sheriff physically remove you from my property." I handed him the paper. His hands were shaking as he took it from me. Mom was crying now. "Anya, please don't do this." "Mom, I love you so much. You can stay here forever. This is your home too. But him." I pointed directly at David. "He's done. He's finished here." David stared down at the eviction notice, then looked at me, then looked at Mom. "You're just going to let her do this to me? To us?" Mom looked torn and conflicted for a long moment. But then something changed in her eyes. For the first time in years, I saw a spark of the strong woman she used to be before David came into our lives. "It's her house, David," she said quietly but firmly. "She has every right to make this decision." David's face twisted with rage and complete humiliation. He threw the eviction notice on the floor, grabbed his jacket from the coat rack, and stormed toward the front door. He slammed it so hard behind him that the whole house shook. The silence that followed was absolutely deafening. "All right, revenge with Mary Fam. Let's talk about what Anya just pulled off here." David thought he had all the power. He waited until Anya turned 18, then hit her with an $800 rent bill. Classic bully move, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But David made one massive mistake. He never checked who actually owned the house. Anya didn't panic. She didn't cry or beg. She did her research, got a lawyer, and came back with receipts. Literal property receipts showing SHE on the house David had been freeloading in for 4 years. Then she hit him with his own medicine, demanded he pay $800 rent plus back payments. The look on his face must have been priceless. David went from man of the house to evicted in one conversation. That's what happens when you underestimate an 18-year-old who's smarter than you. Anya didn't just get revenge. She got her house, her freedom, and her mom back. Perfect execution. Zero regrets. That's how it's done. David was gone within 2 weeks. He didn't even use the full 30 days I'd given him. I think the humiliation was just too much for his ego to handle. He moved in with some friend of his, and, according to what Mom told me, immediately started bad-mouthing both of us to anyone who would listen to him. Mom and I had a long, difficult, honest conversation after David finally left. She admitted that she kept the house ownership a secret from me because she was terrified of how David would react if he knew the truth. She thought if she could just keep the peace and not rock the boat, we could all live together without major problems. She was completely wrong about that. "I'm so sorry, Anya," she said, crying hard. "I should have told you the truth from the beginning. I should have protected you better. I was so incredibly lonely after your dad died. When David came along, I thought I'd never find anyone else who would want me. I was afraid that if I stood up to him or challenged him, I'd end up alone forever." "Mom," I said, taking her hands in mine, "you were never alone. You had me. We were a team, remember? The two of us against the whole world." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know. I'm so sorry I forgot that. I want that team back," she whispered. "Me too, Mom. Me too." It took a few weeks, but slowly and surely, Mom started coming back to herself. The strong, independent woman who'd worked 2 jobs and raised me all by herself. The fighter who never gave up. She even started laughing again and making jokes about how good it felt to not walk on eggshells in her own home anymore. As for David, I heard through mutual acquaintances that he actually tried to take me to court. He claimed he had tenant rights and that I couldn't just kick him out. It went absolutely nowhere. Mr. Thompson shut down his case in about 5 minutes flat. Turns out when you're not paying any rent and you're not on any legal documents for the property, you don't have any case at all. Last I heard, David's living in some tiny studio apartment across town, still bitter and angry, still telling anyone who'll listen that I somehow stole his house from him. Good. Let him stay bitter and miserable. I'm 18 years old. I own my own house. I'm in college working toward my future, and I've got my mom back. David thought he could control me and push me around. Instead, he lost absolutely everything. And honestly, I've never felt more free and powerful in my entire life. So what do you think? Did Anya handle this situation the right way, or should she have done something different? Drop your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. And if you loved seeing David get exactly what he deserved, hit that subscribe button, because we've got plenty more stories of people getting the justice they earned. Thanks for hanging out with us in the Revenge with Mary, and I'll catch you in the next video. Don't forget to put your chair back where you found it.